When I first started looking into women composers of the past, I thought that a good place to start would be to look at famous performers. There were many. The most famous is, of course, Clara Schumann, who we will talk about later in the series. But there were others who enjoyed international fame, and one of such was French pianist and composer Cecile Chaminade. During the height of her career, she toured Europe, United States. She received honors from heads of states, the Queen of England, sold out highest-grossing concert at Carnegie Hall. She made some of the earliest piano roll recordings, sold millions of scores, had music fan clubs, a fragrance named after her, and even appeared on a pack of cigarettes. Cecile Chaminade was born in Paris in 1857 into an upper-class family. Their vacation home neighbor was Georges Bizet, who was one of the first to attest to her early musical gifts. As a child, she played for Franz Liszt, who remarked on her style being similar to that of Chopin. The young Cecile was advised to enter the Paris Conservatory, but her father was against this idea. He considered it improper for a young lady of her class to enroll in a music institution. But he agreed for Cecile to take private lessons from Paris Conservatory faculty. This arrangement proved to be somewhat of a setback for her career, as French didn't take her seriously as someone who'd never gotten a degree. And it was ironic that decades later, when she became famous, Paris Conservatory commissioned her to write a flute composition, which was to be used as a required piece on the entrance exam. At 21, she made her debut as both composer and pianist in a recital of her works, which was very favorably received, and this sort of became a model for her later recitals that she got famous for, and that was Cecile at the piano, either playing her solo works, collaborating with singers, or instrumentalist in one of her piano trios. In 1880s, she ventured into orchestra music and had great success with Concert Etudes for piano and orchestra, Symphonie Les Amazones, Le Sylvains Opera, and Cagliari Ballet and Orchestra Suite. So her composer career was moving up. Interestingly, that incidental music from Cagliari was arranged for solo piano, and one piece in particular, Scarf Dance, was to become her best-selling single. 5 million copies sold in her lifetime. Up until her 30s, Chaminade lived the life of an upper-class woman who was a composer and performer, but she did not need to think about making a living through music. Well, all of that changed with the death of her father in 1887. Toward the end of his life, he made some poor financial decisions, which basically left his family broke. So Cecile was left with her aging mother and no way to support herself except through music. And this is where she became focused on miniature pieces as a way to get published. There was very high demand for this type of music, and she found tremendous success. Over her lifetime, she published over 400 works, and most of these were piano pieces or songs. Her name became mainly associated with particular genre of salon music. Of course, this wild popularity with public made perfect sense. Piano playing was one of the favorite pastimes, and there was always demand for works that people could enjoy in their homes. In 1890s, she would perform annually in London and was very popular with both audiences and the critics. Queen Victoria herself was a fan, and she received her at Windsor Castle. Cecile dedicated one of her songs to Princess Beatrice, Queen Victoria's youngest daughter. She also received a Jubilee Medal from the Queen, and her organ prelude was performed at Queen Victoria's funeral. At the turn of the century, she had a booming concert life. She toured Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, Greece, Turkey. She received an honor from the Sultan of Constantinople and the Order of St. John from the Pope. In 1913, French government awarded her Cavalier of the Legion of Honor, the first woman composer to receive it. In 1901, she married a French music publisher, Louis Mathieu Carbonel, who was 20 years her senior, which really upset her family. But it was an unusual marriage. She proposed a platonic match with conditions. Each to reside in separate homes, he could visit her and accompany on her travels, but with no relations. She also didn't change her last name. Her views on marriage were very pragmatic. She said that marriage must adapt to one's career. In men, it is arranged and expected, but if a woman is an artist, it upsets the standards and conventions. She felt that a woman should choose one or the other. She added that when a woman of talent marries a man who appreciates her art, that marriage may be ideal. We don't know much about Chaminade's inner life or motivations, primarily because she preferred we didn't. She kept a diary for over 30 years, but she wished for it to be destroyed after her death. So perhaps with her husband she was able to have that balance, and he was someone who gave her that respect and appreciation she needed as an artist. Their marriage did not last long, as he passed away after 7 years, but she was with him till the end, taking care of him when he fell ill. Later, her niece claimed that in general, Cecile wanted to avoid romantic relationships as she didn't want to be subjected to the male authority. But when it came to art, she did not believe in gender. She said that genius is an independent quality. Meanwhile, she was gaining a large following in the United States. Articles appeared in magazines. Chaminade clubs formed all over the country. And these were musical gatherings dedicated to her music and salon genre in general. One of such clubs was founded in Brooklyn in 1898. That was 10 years before she came to the United States. She had her one and only tour in the US in the 1908-1909 season, and it was treated as a major musical event. Her sold-out concert at Carnegie Hall was the highest grossing concert of that decade. Right after that, President and Mrs. Teddy Roosevelt had her at the White House. Public absolutely loved her, but the critics were mixed. For them, either her music was too feminine in the case of salon music, or too manly if it was larger forms. It was either "I can't believe a woman wrote it," or "see, it's a failure because she's a woman." But public absolutely loved her, and that's what I think we should count. With the arrival of World War I, Cecile stayed at her house near Toulon, and she spent the war years taking care of wounded soldiers. After the war, she found herself outdated and isolated as a composer in this new world where she felt out of place. There were new trends and changes in the arts, and she just couldn't adjust to the rapid changes in the direction of music. Chaminade was not necessarily critical of the new trends, it's just that they went against her natural aesthetic of what essentially was a 19th century salon musician. For example, she considered Puccini beautiful in any environment, but with Richard Strauss, she thought it was too coarse. Her utmost priority in music was to write a beautiful and memorable melody. Once she discovered her own style, she stuck to it throughout her entire life. So we don't hear the early Chaminade or late Chaminade. Her composition approach was that she would think about her piece for a long time, and when it matured, she wrote it down. Then she'd shelve it before sending it to the publisher, give it a second thought, and only then submit it if she was still happy with it. So toward the end of her life, she felt increasingly forgotten. But when the Etudes magazine asked its readers to wish her a happy birthday, she received several thousand letters from all over the world. It must have meant a lot to her, as at the time she wrote, "To live in the heart and memory of those who understand you. That is the supreme consolation for an artist. Thanks to all who remember." I do think that now is a great time to revisit her music, perhaps with fresher ears and open minds. And I think there is absolutely an audience for Chaminade's beautiful music. I personally found her salon pieces very compelling, and they have a really wide range of difficulty. There is music for children, then short salon works, as well as more grand and difficult concert pieces. But they all have her distinct piano style, direct sentiment, and lots of charm. So please stay tuned for the next episode featuring her 3 concert works.